Hey all you cool cats and kittens, we're Geeks Assembled and today we'll be sinking our teeth into the film What We Do in the Shadows. So let's, as usual, give a big hello to someone who enjoyed this film just as much as I did. Connor, what do you think of What We Do in the Shadows?
I don't need to review it now because you just given my review for me. Yeah, Taika Waititi, probably the funniest guy in cinema at the moment. Every film he releases, I'm straight out to the cinema to go see it because he is absolutely hilarious. I hadn't seen this film prior to yesterday, so it was quite an experience actually being able to see something not new, but like something that I hadn't seen before of his. And having seen stuff like Jojo Rabbit and Eagle versus Shark and all them sorts of films, this is just more of the same brilliance. Like it's barely laughingly funny. Just the whole idea of doing a mockumentary on like a flat share between some vampires is just that is so Taika Waititi. It's unbelievable. I understand it's become a TV series which I haven't seen, which I might have to watch now. But one thing that I do like about Taika is that he kind of he doesn't complicate things. Like the premise is very kind of basic. It's just like it's literally just a documentary following the lives of some vampires for a few, I imagine, a few days, and there's nothing too complicated about it. It's just a really funny watch, as is most of Taika's work. But to be honest, what I do like about this, and it's kind of prevalent in these other movies as well, particularly Jojo Rabbit, is how close to the knuckle he can go with his humour. There is references to Nazism in this, to Hitler, all sorts of stuff. My absolute favourite scene of this was when he took the girl home after the night out, and he accidentally bit into her main artery, and she's just bleeding out all over the floor, and he's just there like, it's kind of unlucky to be a vampire in that moment. But he takes such like a small cast of relatively unknowns. Jermaine Clement is his right hand man throughout many of his films. He's not been in the recent ones, I don't think. The last one, I think this was actually the last one he was in. But he occasionally helps him write things and all that sort of stuff. So they're very close. So it's almost a bit like it has a feel of, and I don't know if anyone will agree with me here, like just a couple of like buddies getting together and making a film, sort of thing. So I think to let everyone else have a say, really great film, really great.
Oh, thank you, Connor. Now over to Hull, to our very own ancient creature of the night. It's Lee.
Good job I can't see you. My eyes are tight shut now. What shall I say about this? Yeah, I've never seen it before. I haven't seen the TV series, so I didn't know what I was getting into. I do know Taika's work. As I say, we reviewed Jojo Rabbit a few months back. It was just brilliant to watch. I agree with Connor. The mockumentary aspect of it just works so well. It's for me. It's like a vampire version of The Young Ones. Flat sharing college students. And each of the actors and the vampires get on so well that they're totally different from each other, but they gel so well in that environment. It's funny, and as you say, it's close to the knuckle. There's several things that are happening in it. You just end up going, belly laughing at it. I'm going to have to definitely watch the TV series now. I know it's different actors, different characters, but I know some of the actors in this movie make cameos. So and I think there's a third season on the way of it, so I'll have to look that one up. But yeah, enjoyable. I don't know who picked this one because I didn't. So, oh, was it you, Jake? Oh. So yeah, I enjoyed it very much, and I'll go to my favourite bits later.
I'm getting a good track record for choosing good films. Right now, over to Texas with Tim. What did you think of this film?
I thought it was excellent. I can't disagree with anything that's been said so far. It's a very funny film. I was actually more familiar with Jermaine Clement than Taika. This was the first thing I actually saw Taika Waititi in, and I enjoyed it very much. And yeah, I think you're right, Connor. They are like a writing team. They've written a lot of things together. But yeah, it's a very funny movie. I first saw it about 3 years ago on recommendation of Beefhead, because he said it was very funny, and I enjoyed it very much. I think the point though of the scene you're talking about, Connor, is how fastidious he is, because he didn't want to dirty the floor. So he's got the newspapers and the towels and stuff, and he's all like, and that's his big complaint is his housemates don't keep up their end when it comes to keeping things clean. So I mean, it's very much like Lee said. It's very much like The Young Ones, because they get along. They're almost family, but they don't really. But they have a lot of petty fights and stuff. It's funny too how they accidentally turned that guy into a vampire. They had no intention of doing so, and he ends up hanging around all the time, like he's one of them. But yeah, I agree. Overall, this is a great movie, and I do recommend you watch the series because it's the same sort of thing in just a half-hour format. It's very funny though, sitcom kind of thing.
Right, thank you, Tim. Right, let's go to Massachusetts with our very own vampire. It's Susan the Vampire. What did you think of this?
Oh, it's bloody brilliant, actually. It's got great comedy.
Sorry,
and,
what was that?
And I do miss the old times, but I was surprised that they got away with so much in New Zealand, because New Zealand is like Howard Town. This is not Howard's. This is not Howard's at all. Pardon me. This is not Hobbits at all. It's just a wonderful group of individuals. And I agree. It is Young Ones. It is a bunch of other flatmate kind of things, and it's incredibly cool. I mean, anything that's done it. I mean, I know that the scene in New Zealand is like this. They have these socials and they're great, and they don't get weird until the wrong crowds mix. And this has definitely got some great crowd things like vampires, zombies, werewolves, witches, and a beast. So anyway, it was fun. Back over to you, Jake.
Well, thank you, Susan, who is also available to hire for birthday parties. Anyway, I believe I watched a TV series, one of the TV series before I watched this film, and it's very interesting watching the film again after just recently re-binging the first two series of TV series, and how much similarity they've both got. Obviously, one had a lot more to extend and build up on than the film did. But saying that, for what they had at the time, it's a bloody good film, it is. And that's coming from someone who doesn't really like comedy. I found this hilarious, and I found it very difficult to laugh at films, and I can't think of a scene I didn't laugh at. Like Connor said, it's just like friends having a film. Making the film. They got such good chemistry together. It's probably, hand on heart, one of the best chemistry they've ever seen in the film, because they all get on so well. And like everyone else was saying, there's some humour in there. It's very on the knuckles. Obviously, they couldn't then do on the TV series, but it's funny. Stuff like that's funny. I love dark humour, and there's so much dark humour in here. It's a great concept, and I wish we get more from them, really, which obviously we will. I just wish we had these characters back in like their proper roles. And the thing with this cast is, there's not one character I like more than the others. They're all level to me. They're all so good in each of their roles. I can't go, oh, he's my favourite, because they're all so good. Same like a mention ago, the TV series. They're both incredibly well thought out and planned films and programmes. And I just wish we kind of got more films like it in this style that weren't too watered down and snowflakeified, if that makes sense. But yeah, right, we're going to go over to favourite moments now. And I'm going to go over to Texas with Tim. What are your favourite moments?
Well, I like the way that they on the one hand they have the guy staying with him that they don't like because he's a bit of a jerk, a bit of a lad, I guess. And then you have the other guy everybody just thinks he's cool, and he's not even a vampire. He's just kind of there all the time, but nobody wants to kill him because or eat him because he's cool. And of course, he ends up turning into a werewolf, which they don't like either. Those are the most hilarious scenes with the werewolf, because it's almost like they don't want to be werewolves. They're chaining themselves to trees or whatever and stuff. It's just silly. But yeah, that's one of the best bits, I would say. Overall, I mean, it's a laugh a minute, really. I mean, it's a quick movie too. It's only about 90 minutes, so it's a very enjoyable watch.
Thank you, Tim. Right then, over to Connor. What are your favourite moments?
The one line that absolutely crucified me, that I didn't even see coming, and I probably should have, was when they go on the night out and they see them two girls, and one of the girls says, oh, I'm just waiting for a paedophile. It's that sort of humour that Taika kind of implements into all of his movies that just, I don't know how some of his movies get made. Like Jojo Rabbit, for example, should not have got made, but it did. And I think he just has such a way with kind of addressing issues or addressing certain situations, like with this humour that's like, so, what's the word? It's like it can be the most offensive thing ever, but everyone would find it funny. Like, I don't think anyone would be offended by just the way that it's delivered. Like I said, the artery scene was also another favourite of mine. And actually, I enjoyed, because I didn't see it coming, who the actual beast was. I thought the build-up of like the story of the beast was pretty hilarious, because that's actually quite relatable. If you've ever been in a relationship with a shit girl, you know, she's the beast. You know, that's very indicative of any sort of relationship gone bad. You know, you want to call each other the worst names possible. So beast and arsehole in this example. Yeah, it's just like Tim said, it's laugh a minute. It's impossible to kind of pick one moment over the rest. I think they're just a few of my highlights.
Well, thank you, Connor. Over to Susan the Vampire. What are your favourite moments?
My favorite moments were, I loved it when they were having to clean up as the super old vampire did it in the sunlight, a sunlight accident. And they were like, glamoring the police officers, and the police officers were like, you know, looking around their apartment or their house for smoke detectors, and there was dead bodies and blood and gore and everything all over the place. That was so funny. It was like, yeah, that's how to get away with being a vampire right there. And the other thing that I thought was super funny and super precious was their familiar, and how she was willing to do like anything, but she would grumble about it all the time, and that's hilarious. because I mean, you know, you get a familiar, and if they're grumble about everything, I mean, what kind of fun is that?
Hmm.
Anyway, she was great. She was so great, and and then they went to the big to do, which is like one of those big social things that happens in New Zealand. Uh, Usually about hobbits, but not usually about vampires. But this one was vampires. Um, they they went to the social thing, and there she was, and she'd been changed by the vampire that they kicked out, and so that was super fun. And the other thing was when the vampire that they kicked out. Hang on a second. Let me get this up here. Wait. I'm not gonna make. All right. That when Nick the vampire had told everybody in town, you know Twilight, that's me. He was like outing himself. He was like constantly just telling everybody, "Hey, I'm a vampire. Hey, I'm a vampire." And anyway, that was super fun. And then he meets the vampire slayer, and I mean, it's too bad when you meet a vampire slayer. As a vampire myself, I struggle when I'm like in proximity to a slayer. That's why I left California. Actually, there was too many Buffy wannabes there, and I just had to leave. That's why I'm in Massachusetts. Next stop, London. I'm sure, but been around a while. I really like Seattle and Portland, but California were too many damn slayers. Anyway, just can't imagine being a vampire in New Zealand. How to be out a vampire in New Zealand? That's just whacked. Anyway, so I love this a lot. It's very close to home, and I'm glad. I'm glad they got along so well. That was terrific. I even thought it was really endearing when he was brushing the teeth of the elder vampire. Peter, yeah. Yeah, that was so sweet. Very intimate moment there. Anyway, back over to you, Jake.
Thank you very much. Now, last but not least, Peter the Vampire himself, Lee Wilson.
There's so many things. I did like when there was after Nick, they wanted his blood. They was chasing him through the house. It was sort of like a Scooby-Doo moment where they were in and out the doors. The one where I think it was Deacon appeared in his rucksack at one point. It was brilliantly done. And where they were arguing at the beginning of the movie about cleaning the dishes, he's never, in so many 100 years, he's never cleaned the dishes. It's just like flat sharing, students. It was brilliant. And Stu, his human mate was just, it was fun. He was a geekish computer nerd who got the vampires into the internet of the world of eBay, which was just brilliantly, you think they didn't know what it was, but they got hooked to it. I mean, gory in some places, but I don't mind a bit of gore. Hey, it's classed as a horror comedy, so. But yeah, it's really well done. Taika, he just goes from strength to strength. Even if he has become famous now. I mean, he's even that famous. They're including him in the Marvel movies. don't know why. I mean, he doesn't, you know, he's got talent. He can do that and something else, but he's in the Marvel movies now. So,
Yeah, Thor Ragnarok.
and also as well, the Mandalorian in that as well as the voice of RG-11 and directed.
He's also doing a Star Wars film of his own.
Yeah, so he is the man of the moment. He really is. So good, you know, big thumbs up for that. And I'm gonna have to watch the TV series now. But
Yes.
let's have another movie as well.
Yeah.
You know, come on, another what
Have them
we do.
both meeting in a film, the TV lot and the movie lot.
Yeah, I mean, the scenes with Shields, it's just sat there in the background, and there's all these vampires, and is it Nick? And he's sat on the stairs. You know, he's my best mate, but I don't want to eat him. He's my best mate. You wouldn't do that with your best mate, would you? It's just lines like that. You think, well, they've got this mockumentary just off to a T, which is brilliantly done. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Peter. This film with me, it's really hard to find a favourite moment now that any of you haven't said, because you've all together said my favourite moments. Where's the blood scene where he's biting into their neck? But I will say, when we get introduced to each of the vampire, and then that vampire introduced himself, especially with the torturer, who's like, "This is my dungeon." If I did pick a favourite, it'd probably be him. But I just love how all the different backstories and how they all come together, and it's so funny. The only gripe that I really have in the film is that I wish we got to see Peter the Vampire a bit more. That brilliant makeup, but you just didn't see it enough. And I'd like to have seen him as like a proper functional member of the household, if that makes sense. But apart from that, yeah, then we got obviously the paedophile kids, which I thought was hilarious, like Connor did, because that's such a good idea and something they did carry on in the TV series very briefly. And then, yeah, that's all I can really say about this film. So now it's the time of the show where we go over our final saying score and end this show. So let's go over to, let's start with Lee.
Final saying score, yeah, enjoyable. It's not your average run-of-the-mill movie, which is a good thing, because you don't get tired of, oh, not another vampire movie. You know what I mean? It's 10 to a dozen, all these type of movies, but the way that they did it, and Taika with his talent and the writing, the acting, I'm giving it a 10. I enjoyed it so much.
Oh, well, blimey.
It's a very underrated movie because not a lot of people know the movie out there.
Right then, over to Tim. What's your final saying, Scott?
Yeah, I agree with Lee that it's very underrated. I mean, I think the problem is not a lot of people know about it. It needs more word of mouth. Hopefully, people that watch the series now will go back and catch it because it's definitely a good film. I'm also going to give it a 10 because it flies by. It's just a very funny movie, and there's nothing to fault it really. It's a great comedy.
Right, thank you, Tim. Over to Connor.
One thing I like about the characters is that if you know your vampire movies, you can kind of see like what each character is based off of. So Peter is like Nosferatu, and I think Vladislav actually is very close in both appearance and kind of demeanour to Gary Oldman's Dracula from the Dracula.
Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah, I think they're kind of very similar. So I think in a way, Taika and Jermaine have kind of taken parts from vampire lore, like vampire history and stuff, cinema history as well, and kind of found a way to implement them into this movie, which is very good. And I agree that there should have been more Peter, to be fair, because that is impressive makeup and he is quite a funny character, to be fair. My rating, I'll give it an 8.5.
Thank you, Connor. Right, last but not least, let's go over to Susan. What's your final say in the score?
Well, I just liked what Connor just said about them each being a type. Uh, in Japanese lore, vampire lore, they all are a type. There's the Chiaptra, and then which is Peter, and then there's the Rosario type, which is the little girls, and there's all the cool the night what is it called? Vampire Night style vampires. And yeah, definitely Vlad the Impaler was Vladimir, and Iago was sort of like the Volturi in the Twilight series. He was the dandy vampire. And yeah, so it was really interesting. And I will give it 10 fangs out of 10.
Thank you, Susan. Right, with me, this I like this film is basically taking every vampire trope, taking the piss out of it a little bit, and put it into a hilarious, laugh-a-minute film. So for that reason, I'm also going to give it 10 fangs out of 10. Right, I'd like to thank you for watching and all these lovely people for joining me. If you want to take part, don't forget to hit us up on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Hit that bell, hit the like button, like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.